Hello, everyone. What is up? It's eclipse season, and so I will be going into this new moon solar eclipse in Virgo on September 21st. I'm going to go through each rising sign. So if you don't know your rising sign, please find that out by clicking on the link in the description below, where it will calculate it for you, because sometimes a rising sign isn't the same as the sun sign. So I go based off the rising sign so that I can attempt at being more accurate to the areas of life these things are influencing, etc. Anyways, I apologize for not getting the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces on September 7th out, but I have good news as to why. It's because I was working around the clock getting all of the 2026 yearlies done. And I'm so excited to launch this material. So last year I did a downloadable guide. This year I decided to create a whole online portal. So if you've ever taken an online course, it's sort of set up like that, but each month is its separate portal. So I think that's the best way I can describe it. But each month is separate. It has its own separate podcast recording. So I created a whole presentation style. So it's beautiful, it's aesthetic, it's easy to follow, it's less cluttered. And you can watch the presentation. There's exclusive material, Chiron and Taurus material that I wanted to get into. And then below the monthly presentation where I walk you through that month, there is supplemental material. So I've linked reliable, trustworthy people, their material, other perspectives, if you're interested in learning about some of the things that is going on during that month. So it's sort of a one-stop shop. And I wanted to make it each month separate so that you can digest it throughout the year. It's something that you can come back to. You can certainly be a warrior and bust through, I think it's like 2-3 hours of recordings total for the year for each rising sign. And you can certainly go through, sort of mark down your calendars, but I wanted to create something that you could come back to and sort of digest throughout the year. So it's so good. I'm so proud of it. I've worked ridiculously hard in the past month to get it done because I knew once eclipse season happened, I probably wasn't going to have the time to get it done. So stay tuned for that in October. I am just making sure that everything works behind the scenes on the website with that, putting some last finishing touches. So definitely stay tuned in October for that. I'm so excited. So if you like my podcast, you're going to love these yearlies. It's literally like your own little individual portal every single month that you get with additional supplemental material, and some of it's my own, some of it's other astrologers. So I'm really excited to launch this. Anyways, I'm going to stop blabbing on and let's get into this. Let's get into this eclipse. Hello, Aries risings. So this new moon solar eclipse is at 29 degrees, the anaretic degree, which can give it a little bit more potency, a little bit more of a sense of urgency around this new beginning, new chapter, planting new seeds in the 6th house of daily work and health routines. So this, generally speaking, could be a really strong new beginning, new opportunity involving your daily work or a health situation, your routines, colleagues, coworkers, etc. You'll notice if you're watching on Spotify or YouTube that this new moon solar eclipse, setting the new intention, planting the seeds, the new chapter, the new opportunity around those themes, is opposite Saturn retrograde in this Pisces 12th house of behind the scenes, subconscious thought patterns, where Saturn ruling this 10th house of career and public recognition, as well as this 11th house of social network and long-term goals. Some of you could be coming back around to something that was playing out or going on even behind the scenes back in roughly the first half of May of 2025, so this year. You could be coming back around to that. It could have been work-related, friend-related, long-term goal-related, that now you're thinking about, you're working on behind the scenes maybe, you're restructuring it, you're reconsidering it. And because it's opposite this new moon eclipse here in the 6th house of work and health routines, it tells me some of you might be coming back around to something that played out in May of this year when Saturn was originally going over this territory here in your Pisces 12th house, that needs to now be balanced or considered with this new chapter, new beginning around your work routines, side businesses, colleagues, coworkers, or it could be a health situation. So balancing your health to focus on something with work or long-term goals, or attending to your health behind the scenes in order to accomplish long-term goals, career, public recognition themes. So definitely pay attention to how career, your social network, and your long-term goals are now being maybe revisited, reviewed, or revised behind the scenes to potentially restructure them, think more long-term, create more longevity and commitment to any of those themes, and how that can be balanced and weighed in to setting yourselves up for success regarding your routines to attend to a health situation or the work that you want to do, the work that you want to achieve or that you have to do over the next 5 or 6 months, where the ruler of this new moon eclipse is Mercury, and Mercury is in a Venus-ruled sign, and Venus is in a Mercury-ruled sign. So Venus and Mercury are actually in each other's homes. They're in mutual reception. So they sort of swapped homes, and they're trying to help each other out or give each other a different perspective. Now, Mercury, generally speaking, I mean, I'm not going to go crazy into the ins and outs of essential dignity for time purposes, but Mercury generally has a little bit more strength. Venus is in fall. So they're trying to help each other out here. But the reason why I mention Mercury here in your 7th house of personal and professional partnerships is whatever's going on with the 6th house matters. Work, health, routines, colleagues, coworkers, that maybe needs to be balanced with something that's weighing on you mentally. Maybe it's regarding career, business, long-term goals. The ruler of this eclipse being in a partnership area of your chart could signal that partnerships could be playing a major part in this, or you could be seeking the connections, the personal and professional connections, in order to help you sort of balance this opposition with this eclipse here. Whatever is going on with anything regarding work, vitality, health, things that you're sort of thinking about mentally, behind the scenes, definitely take note of it, because this new moon solar eclipse is the planting of seeds, the new chapter, where the full moon lunar eclipse that takes place in this 6th house of daily work and health routines happens in March of 2026. So whatever you could be starting or sort of working the kinks out, trying to balance, reconsider, whatever is going on, it could really come to a head or come to fruition and culmination around March, when that full moon lunar eclipse really comes to fruition and illuminates the 6th house of daily work and health routines. So I like to go a little bit ahead and fast forward just to give you guys a little bit more perspective around it's what's happening now in September could really be coming to a head in March. Now, March 3rd is the exact day, but we're talking about an eclipse, so it can happen a little bit before, so maybe in February, a little bit deeper into March. And again, this full moon lunar eclipse blasting all of its light in the 6th house of daily work and health routines. Really strong culmination around a health situation, your vitality, your wellness, or your work, or both. Where the ruler of the full moon eclipse come March is not going to be in your 7th house of partnership anymore like it is now in September. It's going to be in that 12th house of behind the scenes, subconscious thought patterns. And it will also be retrograde. So, and it's also in detriment. So this is an interesting coming to fruition, a culminating moment. But I want to point out that if we move this ruler of the eclipse, Mercury, forward throughout March, something really important happens with Mercury. Mercury is going to station direct conjunct the North Node here. So it's really interesting how whatever's happening in September, it could really come full circle, potentially behind the scenes or mentally, where maybe in September 2025, you're really working on the physical components of the routine, the scheduling, the logistics, figuring out what you need to figure out, where come March of 2026, it's really coming to a head and amplifying with this North Node, right? What we're hungry for, the direction we want to go in. And because it's stationing direct the North Node, I think that's really significant because it's not only amplifying that North Node, I want to move more towards those 12th house themes in order to balance the work or the health, or working behind the scenes in order to balance the work or the health situation. The nodes could also be helpful in aligning. Now, this Mercury is in fall or detriment, depending on how you look at it. And it's overexerting. It's gonna, a Mercury in Pisces might take a little bit of a different path, a little bit of a different route than you might come March 2026. And that Mercury will be retrograde. So I think when we have that coming to fruition, so if you are planting seeds, you're setting intentions around a health or work situation, any of those themes involved in that. When you get closer to March, where it could come to fruition and really culminate or come to a head, you might, with Mercury retrograde initially, in going into March of 2026 with this full moon, you might be reviewing and revising whatever it is you set your intentions on now in September of 2025. So I think it's really important with this eclipse to set your intentions, get clear on that, but also be open to all the possibilities. Because when it comes time to really cultivate those seeds that you planted and sort of get your crop metaphorically, it could be, Mercury retrograde in its place of detriment. It's really, really fascinating from an astrology perspective, because whatever's coming to fruition, you might be like, whoa, like I want to tweak it a little bit, or I want to edit a little bit, or there might be some loose ends I need to tie up. But then once it stations direct the North Node, it clicks into place. I'm hoping that even though Mercury by essential dignity is technically a little weaker in Pisces, especially the 12th house, a hidden house, it aligned to the North Node. It's sort of whatever's coming to fruition could really come to fruition behind the scenes or subconsciously, or something could click into place mentally, or again, behind the scenes, that really plays into whatever it is you're setting your new intentions, your new chapters around your work or health, that could really amplify in sort of a really interesting way come March of 2026. So I think a lot of us going into September this month could be having the plans, setting the new things, but having to weigh with Saturn, what are we sort of maybe going back to that we were going over in May of 2025 that now needs to be considered into what you want to start, what you want to initiate, the seeds that you want to plant for you around your health or your work, that now when it comes time to actually bring this whole thing to fruition for a lot of us, we're going to get another opportunity to review and revise, and maybe in a way where we need to be open to all the possibilities with Mercury's situation and how that might help us align to the direction we want to move towards. And for you, regarding the mind-body axis, right? Subconscious thought patterns, what's going on behind the scenes, and how that affects your daily work and health routines and vice versa. Hello, Taurus risings. So this new moon solar eclipse will be at 29 degrees, the anaretic degree. So there could be a sense of urgency, sort of an amplification to what's already an eclipse, which can already feel a bit amplified. And this new moon solar eclipse is a new beginning, a new opportunity, or planting new seeds around fifth house themes. Now, the fifth house is the place of joy. So this is good in that sense, but this could be really involving your creativity, your creative projects, your self-expression, romantic situation, anything to do with children, any themes regarding children, if that's applicable to you. I know people freak out when I say children, but it's really whatever you're focused on that brings you joy. That is what I want you to focus on, whether it's your creativity, your self-expression, spending more time with people intimately, having fun, doing more fun things, whatever it is, whatever is bringing you joy, those are the things and those are the themes that I want you to focus on. Where this new moon solar eclipse is a really strong new beginning or new opportunity to plant the seeds or start something new creatively, whatever's bringing you joy, your self-expression, romantic situations, anything with children, if that's applicable to you, that this new moon is opposite Saturn retrograde in that Pisces 11th house of friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals. So social network, long-term goals. So the opposition is interesting because if Saturn is returning back to the territory that it originally went over back in roughly May of 2025. So some of you might be coming back around to something that got initiated or really came up back around May of 2025 that you're reconsidering, maybe your relationship to it. Maybe it's something with friends, groups, communities, or your long-term goals. Some of you, I think for Taurus risings, this could have a lot to do with career, growth, and potential themes because Saturn does rule this Aquarius 10th house of career and public recognition, as well as your Capricorn 9th house of growth and potential. So publishing, teaching, traveling, spirituality, higher knowledge, etc. So some of you could be sort of coming back around to what was playing out with career, growth and potential themes, things within those growth and potential themes that you're now reconsidering. Maybe you're thinking about your longevity, your commitment to them, what you want to do with them, how you want to restructure it. Whatever it may be, you could really be coming back around to something that was also playing into your long-term goals. Maybe some of you were sort of shifting your long-term goals and seeing how that impacts your social network, who you want to surround yourselves with, etc. So for some of you, this could be more personal and less professional. It could have something to do with friends, groups, communities that maybe you're coming back around to, you're sort of reconsidering, whatever it may be, that now is having you maybe balance whatever that is with this new moon. So whatever you're some of you are coming back to with that Saturn and wrapping up that Pisces 11th house story of friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals that you've sort of seen a lot happen in the past couple years. Some of you might have the opportunity to sort of reconsider your social network and your long-term goals regarding your career or growth and potential in your lives. That could be playing into this new beginning or new chapter around what brings you joy. So some of you might really be wanting to plant new seeds, a new chapter, a new opportunity around those things that bring you joy. It could be maybe considering starting a family, or maybe it's a new creative project, or maybe it's just you really want to incorporate more fun with those friends, groups, and communities that you really value and make you feel really good, and that you want longevity and commitment towards that. There's a lot of opportunities here where I think whatever's playing out with either career, growth, and potential, you could be really trying to weigh that into how you're going to start this new chapter around maybe starting a family, how that plays out with things with your children. If children aren't applicable to you or any of those themes, it could be really you weighing in on your creative projects, your self-expression, how to incorporate more joy with balancing the things that you're working on with career, growth and potential, long-term goals. The ruler of this new moon is Mercury, and Mercury is here in your Libra 6th house of daily work and health routine. So I think for some Taurus rising, this is indicating additional probability of work themes coming up with this, as well as career, just because we have Saturn ruling the career area and we have Mercury ruling this eclipse, but also in that 6th house of daily work routine. So I think some of you, it could be work and career related, but again, it could be more personal with friends, groups, communities, sort of your growth and potential, your impacts to your health and your wellness with those 6th house themes. But the ruler of this eclipse being in the 6th house, I think some of you could be looking at your routines. How can you set your routines up for success long term that help you creatively, that help support your children, that help support your creative projects, having fun, enjoying life, and also going after career, long-term goals, growth and potential. So I think for Taurus risings, this could really indicate that some of you are really going to be wanting to maybe look at your routines to help assist you in establishing this new chapter around what you want to do creatively, self-expressive, joy, children, and Saturn asking you to sort of maybe come back to something that was initiated around April, May of 2025 that maybe needs to be reconsidered, that needs to be weighed into what you want to start. This new moon eclipse is connected to the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo that happens on March 3rd of 2026. So I like to zoom in, but I like to sort of consider, well, what do those conditions look like to help us understand what's happening now in September of 2025. So whatever's happening now in September of 2025 regarding those areas I just discussed, they could really become amplified or come to fruition around March of 2026. And when I fast forward to March of 2026, get it to March 3rd here. And then I'm a little OCD, so I want to get this exact. Okay. Sorry. Okay. When we fast forward to whatever is happening now that could really come to fruition around March of 2026, we have a totally different story. Because yes, this full moon lunar eclipse here will be really culminating and highlighting and bringing something to fruition around children, creativity, romance, self-expression, really anything that brings you joy. The ruler of this eclipse, just like the one now in September, is not in this 6th house of daily work and health routines anymore. It's retrograde and in detriment in your Pisces 11th house of friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals. So don't freak out, because I actually think that this is a really interesting full moon eclipse that's happening, because this Mercury is actually going to retrograde back to this North Node in that 11th house of friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals. So although by essential dignity, Mercury is not the strongest in Pisces, but that's not always a bad thing. Mercury in Pisces can look at all the different possibilities, can sort of look at different dimensions, different angles, sort of take a different approach than we normally would. And this tells me that whatever is happening in September could not only come to fruition or really be illuminated come March of 2026. I think once we get closer to March of 2026, Mercury is going to have us be reviewing, revising, tying up loose ends regarding whatever it is we're starting, really initiating what's unfolding in September of 2025, where we get to March and yes, it's culminating, but maybe based off of what's culminating, we're like, oh, actually, we want to tweak this a little bit, or actually, I want to edit this a little bit. And Mercury also rules your Gemini 2nd house of earned income and self-worth. So whatever's coming to fruition regarding what's bringing you joy, your creativity, your self-expression, situations with children, this could heavily involve a financial alignment regarding long-term goals, social network that could be playing into that. So I think once we get to whatever's happening in September of this year, I think what plays out as we get closer to March of 2026 could be really interesting. And for you Taurus risings, I think this could be the opportunity to maybe set new intentions around what really brings you joy, or it could be situations with children, romance, self-expression, creative projects that could be playing a part in your long-term goals. That could be playing a part of how you sort of interact or surround yourselves with the right people. That could be also playing into your professional life for some of you, that come March of 2026 could really come to a head where you will get an additional opportunity to not only review and revise the financial situation regarding children, creative projects, self-expression, what brings you joy, and how that aligns you to your long-term goals, but also who you surround yourselves with, how those people support those long-term goals. And when Mercury stations direct conjunct the North Node, this is an amplification of that. So some of you could actually, through this setting a new chapter in September, coming to fruition in March of 2026, could actually step into a time where maybe you're seeing, especially with the Mercury in Pisces, you're looking at a different angle. You're maybe taking a different approach, or maybe for some of you, it feels a little different. It feels a little weird. But because Mercury stations direct the North Node, and it also rules your 2nd house of finance, your earned income, your self-worth, some of you might be stepping into new creative projects, new long-term goals, dreams, aspirations that could become lucrative, or could have you sort of stepping into more of your self-worth, your talent, and your value. Hello, Gemini risings. This new moon solar eclipse will be at 29 degrees in your 4th house of home, family, property, and real estate. So with the new moon eclipse being at 29 degrees, this is the aneretic degree. This, in my opinion, adds an additional layer of urgency, a sense of urgency, some intensity behind it, more desire behind it. And so this new moon solar eclipse is, generally speaking, a new beginning, a new chapter, planting new seeds around home, relationships with family, property, real estate, relocation, renovation. And this new moon eclipse here is not only setting a new beginning or planting new seeds that you want to cultivate, especially over the next 5 or 6 months regarding any of those themes, but it's opposite Saturn retrograde in your Pisces 10th house of career, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment. So this Saturn is actually retrograding back over the territory that it originally went over roughly around May of 2025. So some of you might be able to think back to roughly around May of 2025, what was going on with career, public recognition. Maybe for some of you, it had growth and potential themes mixed into it because Saturn also rules your 9th house. So maybe it had some travel, some higher knowledge, some teaching, some publishing, whatever growth and potential themes could have been sort of mishmashed into this Saturn in the 10th. But because Saturn is going back over this territory that it originally went over in May, some of you might be revisiting those themes or those situations that maybe played out or was happening back in May of 2025, where now you have a new perspective around it, or you want to tweak or change some things around it. And that now has to be weighed and balanced with this new beginning or new chapter regarding any home, family, relationships with people you live with, property, real estate, renovation, relocation, etc. Anything within those themes. And so balancing that, weighing that into now this new chapter or this new something that you want to start foundationally in your lives. The ruler of this new moon is Mercury, also your ruling planet. And Mercury is in this Libra 5th house, the place of joy, creativity, self-expression, children, if applicable to you. So this tells me some of you might be really thinking about not only the home, family, property, real estate situation, and maybe balancing that with the career, the public recognition, the things that bring you fulfillment in your lives, but ultimately, how is this new chapter or this new beginning? How can you think long-term around your joy? So this could be a situation where, yes, you are setting a new chapter or a new beginning or planting new seeds around home, family, property, real estate. But how can you maybe think about how you want to incorporate more of what brings you joy, more creativity, more of your self-expression, or children, if that's applicable to you? What's interesting is that the ruler of this eclipse, Mercury, in this 5th house of joy, is in Venus's home, and Venus is in Mercury's home. So this is they've swapped homes here, and so they're in mutual reception, and so they're trying to help each other out, essentially. And to me, that's a stronger indicator that whatever Mercury is trying to communicate regarding your self-expression, what brings you joy, creativity, children, if applicable to you, weighing that into the seeds that you want to plant foundationally right now in your lives, and being really clear on this new chapter, planting the seeds with not forgetting about your joy, not forgetting how you want to cultivate whatever it is you want to cultivate foundationally. That could also be weighing in on career and public recognition themes for some of you, but ultimately how it's really going to support you. How, not only what it looks like, but how do you want it to feel? And so I think this is an important sort of undercurrent for Gemini risings right now. So this new moon solar eclipse is the beginning, but it's ultimately part of or connected to the full moon lunar eclipse that will land here on March 3rd of 2026. So whatever you're setting, whatever's playing out right now, that you're also maybe reconsidering with Saturn, and Saturn sort of helping you weigh and balance in, you know, what you need to think about career-wise, public recognition, growth and potential, and maybe what home or foundational situation in your life is fully going to support that longevity that you want. It's connected to this full moon lunar eclipse that will culminate, bring it to fruition come March of 2026. Where if we fast forward and we look at the conditions of that, sometimes that can give us a clue to what we want to really put into perspective now in September. So what's happening in September, we could really see it come to a head or come to fruition or be illuminated come March of 2026. Let me just get this exact here, or close to. Good enough. Okay. So fast forward to the full moon lunar eclipse that is illuminating, bringing something to fruition regarding the home, family, property, real estate themes. Again, renovation, relocation as well. Relationships with people you live with, really anything within those themes, really culminating it, really strong coming to fruition regarding what is planted or what is playing out now in September of 2025. Where the ruler of this eclipse is not in this fifth house of joy anymore. It is retrograde and in detriment in your 10th house of career and public recognition. So this tells me that whatever is going on right now in September, for a lot of Gemini risings, it could really come to fruition and be culminated in a way where it's really playing out or affecting your career, your public recognition, the things that bring you fulfillment. How is the foundation of your life, where you live, your living situation, your relationship with your family or people you live with, fully supporting your career, your public recognition, the things that bring you fulfillment, where come March, all of us will have a potential opportunity to sort of review and revise any loose threads, anything that we want to sort of review and revise around home, family, property, real estate. And for you, Gemini risings, with this being your ruling planet, how it fully supports your ability to take independent action. How does it support how you want to show up in the world, your physical body? Where that Mercury in March is going to retrograde back to the North Node and station direct. To me, this is very significant. So whatever you're starting in September of 2025, really initiating where you want to take it, give yourself some breathing room and some space to potentially review and revise any loose threads, anything you want to tweak or change as you get into 2026. And that with this Mercury in Pisces, again, in detriment, you could be taking a different perspective or a route you didn't think of months earlier. So Mercury in Pisces can sort of look at things in a different way, from a different angle compared to another Mercury. So with it going conjunct the North Node here in this 10th house, it's sort of indicating to me that a lot of Gemini risings, a lot of this is going to amplify and build to what brings you fulfillment, your career, your business, your public recognition, and how whatever you're doing foundationally in your life regarding relationships with family, home, property, real estate, renovation, relocation, anything playing out within those themes could really come to a head and come to fruition, but in a way where it could potentially, for some of you, align yourselves to a more fulfilling life, align yourselves to a more fulfilling career. That, again, Mercury in detriment in Pisces, like you might be taking a different route, or you might be looking at things from a different perspective that you normally wouldn't. So again, I think it's not just about this fourth house. I think for a lot of Gemini risings in September 2025, I think Saturn is sort of helping some of you weigh in what you really want to create longevity around, what you want to commit to, and sort of tying up any loose threads around responsibility, commitment, discipline, hard work regarding career, business, public recognition, or those things that bring you fulfillment. Where come full circle to around March of 2026, you'll have a potential opportunity to sort of review and revise any loose threads, anything that's not really going to serve you or support the foundation of your life, but ultimately where you want to go in your career, your public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment. But don't forget, Mercury is your ruling planet. It rules your first house of the physical body, ability to take independent action, identity, how you want to show up in the world. And with it stationing direct after this revisionary period around what's really going to support you, but also support you foundationally, it's going to station direct conjunct the North Node. And I think that even though Mercury's in detriment, I think that can amplify this energy around aligning Gemini risings to what fully supports who you want to be, how you want to move through the world, and hopefully really amplifying and aligning that foundation of your lives, the home, the family, the property, the real estate themes that really support your visibility, your public recognition, the things that bring you fulfillment, career, business, etc. Hello, Cancer risings. So this new moon solar eclipse at 29 degrees in your Virgo third house. This is planting seeds, new chapter, new opportunity, new intentions around communication fields, so technology, transportation, personal or professional, siblings, extended family also land in this house. So communication, siblings, extended family, neighborhood, community, exchanging information. I like to think of the third house as sort of where we have a lot of movement in our everyday lives. So exchanging, communicating, interacting, again, those siblings, extended family. For some of you who know your chart and have your IC, that MC-IC angle, so the IC in Virgo, especially, I would say the last 5 degrees of Virgo, but regardless, this could have additional home, family, property, real estate themes for some of you. So, new beginnings, planting new seeds around your immediate everyday environment, communication, podcast, social media, communication fields, exchanging information, short distance travel, transportation, including your car. So those people, places, and things within your everyday immediate environment. So, a lot's on the table with this, because it's in the third house. So this new moon, new opportunity, new intention around how you want to communicate, whether it's personal or professional, how you want to maybe move through your immediate everyday environment. Some of you might be taking care of appointments, errands, tasks, phone calls to set this new chapter or new intention in place that you want to cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months. If you work in communication, so like podcasts, apps, technology, transportation, any of those things, this could definitely have some professional themes sprinkled in it, setting, new ideas, new projects, new launches, etc. That is a possibility, in my opinion, with this, if it's something that you do professionally. Personal, I would look out for more family, siblings, extended family, people, places, and things within your everyday immediate environment. Now, if you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, you'll notice that this new moon in this third house is opposite Saturn in your Pisces ninth house. Now, this Saturn has a little bit deeper of a story going on because it is retrograde. It is retrograding back over the territory that it originally went over back around May of this year. So think back roughly May 2025, what was going on, what was coming up, particularly around growth and potential themes. So publishing, traveling, teaching, higher knowledge, spirituality, really anything that you consider growth and potential in your lives that some of you have been working on for a couple years now with Saturn going through this area. Now, Saturn also rules your Capricorn 7th house of personal and professional partnerships. So some of you, this could be sort of including some form of partnerships or connections with others regarding growth and potential themes in your life that you are weighing in to this new chapter, new opportunity, or planting new seeds with this new moon. Saturn also rules this 8th house of other people's resources, so investments, assets, debt, loans, partners' resources, if applicable, transformational work, that some of you might be considering financial themes or transformational work regarding these growth and potential themes that you could be also weighing in to this new chapter, new opportunity, or planting new seeds around this new moon. So this new moon, in my opinion, when you start looking at the whole ecosystem here, yes, it's in a more immediate, everyday environment, right? Communication, exchanging information, siblings, extended family, community, neighborhood, etc. But when you start looking at what this new moon eclipse is talking to, it's really, I think, integrating potential themes of partnerships, financial themes, growth and potential themes that could be weighing into your intentions around this time in September, where you want to go with this, what you want to cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months. The ruler of this new moon is Mercury, and Mercury is in your Libra 4th house of home, family, property, and real estate. So some of you might be looking at your living situation, people you live with, relationships with family, renovations, redecorations, relocations, really any themes within home, family, property, real estate that you could really be considering regarding this new chapter. Some of you might be looking at the foundation of your lives. What's really going to support this new chapter? What's really going to support this new intention that you want to cultivate? And Mercury is in a Venus-ruled area, and Venus is in a Mercury-ruled area. So this is called mutual reception, where Venus and Mercury, where Mercury is ruling this new moon eclipse, are in each other's homes. So they're trying to sort of gain a different perspective or try to help each other out. So I think there's some really interesting layers to this eclipse where I think a lot of Cancer risings are looking at what's going on with home, family, property, real estate themes. How can those situations fully support this new chapter or new intention you want to set? That you're also sort of trying to balance with the bigger picture, the long-term commitment and to growth and potential in your lives that could have financial or partnership themes sort of integrated within that. Where Venus is also in the picture here. So they are trying to sort of help each other out with this mutual reception. However, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty bits about essential dignity, but Mercury has, in my opinion, a little bit more essential dignity. Venus is in fall or detriment. So I think Mercury has a little bit more say, and it's in the area of home, family, property, and real estate. So I think this new moon eclipse, you could be looking at partnership themes, personal or professional, financial themes, and how that's sort of playing into the foundation or situations, changes, desires playing out regarding home, family, property, real estate themes that are going to set you up for success regarding whatever it is you want to initiate, plant the seeds for, and cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months. Now, this new moon solar eclipse is connected to the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo on March 3rd in 2026. So whatever's playing out or really initiating that is going on that I just discussed with any of those themes, it could really come to fruition and culminate as we get closer to March of 2026, where the paired eclipse to this new moon eclipse in Virgo, that full moon eclipse will happen here. And so I like to go to the full moon and sort of see some themes, some clues to help put September into perspective. So if we fast forward to March 3rd, 2026, let me get this just a little bit more exact. Okay, excuse me. We have this full moon lunar eclipse on March 3rd that's playing into what's happening now in September of 2025. So closer we get to March, we could see intensification, culmination, coming to fruition of what was really initiated, what were we desiring starting in September of 2025, where you'll notice if you're watching, the ruler of this eclipse, just like the eclipse in this month, September of 2025, is Mercury. And Mercury is not in the fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate, like it is in September with the new moon eclipse. It's actually in detriment and it's retrograde in your Pisces ninth house of growth and potential. So again, publishing, teaching, religion, spirituality, higher knowledge, travel, really any of those bigger picture growth and potential themes that you could be reviewing and revising, but because Mercury is in Pisces, you could be reviewing and revising it in ways that are less familiar to you. You could be taking new perspectives, new angles, because Mercury in Pisces is in detriment, so it sort of is overexerting, potentially overworking, and it's in a water sign, so it's really sort of more fluid, it's more multidimensional. It's, you know, if Mercury, like for example, if Mercury is in Gemini, Mercury is communicating, it's talking, you can hear it. Mercury in Pisces, it's like telepathic communication. It's just it can take on a different form of communication. So to sort of bring that down to earth here for Cancer risings, some of you might be really communicating or seeking new perspectives or dimensions around your growth and potential in ways that feel unfamiliar. For some, Mercury does rule your Gemini 12th house of behind the scenes, subconscious thought patterns. So some of you might be mentally thinking differently, or you might be working behind the scenes on something in a new way that's playing into something regarding communication, technology, transportation, siblings, extended family, again, those third house themes. But I think what I really want to point out is if we move this Mercury along just a little bit, we'll notice that Mercury will retrograde and station direct conjunct the North Node. So whatever is playing out in September of 2025, it could really not only amplify with the potential opportunity to review and revise in really new ways or new dimensions and new perspectives. But once Mercury stations direct conjunct the North Node, it's sort of in alignment. That North Node is increasing that energy. It is trying to align that energy. The North Node is the direction we want to move towards, what we're hungry for. And so this amplification come March that we could really be seeing play out or start to play out in September of 2025. Again, for you, Cancer rising, this is going to involve anything to do with communication fields, personally or professionally, transportation, technology, short distance travel, siblings, extended family. For some of you, it could be home, family, property, real estate themes as well, being tied into this, integrated within this. That could not only come to fruition come March of 2026, but you could be open to new ways of thinking, open to new possibilities, open to sort of maybe different perspectives or angles around the growth and potential you want to take, and how that ultimately aligns you to the growth and potential you want to amplify and move towards in 2026. Hello, Leo Risings. This new moon solar eclipse in Virgo is at 29 degrees in your second house of earned income and self-worth. So, with it being at 29 degrees, this is the anaretic degree, which could add a layer of urgency, a sense of urgency or intensity around wanting to set a new chapter, plant new seeds, set new intentions around your finances, your financial budgets, material possessions, and self-worth. So, this new moon, you'll notice, is opposite Saturn in your other financial house. The 8th house is, I think of it as like the long-term financial stuff. So investments, assets, debt, loans, partners' resources, if applicable, especially because Saturn rules your 7th house of partnership, personal or professional. So some of you might be looking at a partner's finances or some professional partnership that could be playing into additional financial resources, payouts, investments, assets, debt, loans, etc. The 8th house is also transformational work. So if it's not, if financial themes are not strong at this time, you could be also looking at transformational work, transformational themes, and how that is being balanced or integrated regarding this new chapter around your self-worth, your value. But what I want to point out is this Saturn here. If you're watching, Saturn is returning to the territory or going back over this territory in Pisces where it was at back in May of 2025. So some of you could think back to what was really playing out in May of 2025. What were those themes, stories, etc., that now you could be sort of coming back to with a new perspective, maybe wanting to sort of change your relationship to it, commitment to it, or it could be more of a structural thing with Saturn. So some of you might be coming back to something that really amplified or initiated, or you were sort of working through back in May of 2025. That now you not only have a new perspective, but maybe you have new boundaries, or you have a new system or structure that you're contemplating or working on. That could be emotional, transformational work, or could be financial. That again could be playing a role to your health, with Saturn ruling the 6th house of health, or work, because work is also in the 6th house and Saturn rules that area. So some of you, it could be sort of affecting your health, your vitality, or it could be sort of affecting your work as well with those 6th house connections, as well as anything playing out within personal or professional partnerships regarding this situation. The reason why I bring up all of that with Saturn is that this Saturn could be resurfacing those things where you've gained a new perspective around a work situation, personal or professional partnerships, or a health situation, or it's sort of needing to be balanced or integrated with this new moon in your second house of earned income. So maybe some of you are shifting your perspectives around your finances, your financial budgets, your self-worth regarding this Saturn situation, sort of bringing you back to something with a new perspective around transformational work or those long-term financial themes. The ruler of this new moon is Mercury, and Mercury is in your Libra 3rd house of communication, exchanging information, short distance travel, siblings, extended family. So this is really, I like to think of the 3rd house as like the daily movement, the appointments, the errands, the tasks, the people, places, and things within our everyday immediate environment. So with the ruler of this new moon being in that 3rd house area, you could also be considering sort of your everyday immediate environment, how you want to communicate with the world, exchanging information, relationships with family, relationships with your neighborhood, community, those people, technology, people, places, and things, how this new chapter or new beginning around your finances or your self-worth could be playing into your everyday immediate environment. So some of you might be looking at like appointments, organization, phone calls, like taking care of those everyday mundane tasks or sort of daily overlooked responsibilities and seeing how that impacts your finances. So some of you might be looking at, communication, relationships with siblings, extended family, short distance travel, and this could be personal or professional, and its impacts to your finances or your self-worth, or how your finances and self-worth are impacting those areas as well. So this could also have strong communication themes. Communicating this new chapter, communicating sort of the shift or perspective around, what you want to integrate long-term finances or long-term transformational work that could be impacting personal or professional partnerships as well as work or health routines. So this isn't just about this new moon here in the second house. I don't think is just about finances and self-worth. I actually think it's trying to sort of provide Leo risings the ability to look at the long-term financial picture, the transformational work many of you have been working on the past couple years that could have involved personal or professional partnerships, your overall health, your work routines, and how those areas impact your finances, how those areas impact your self-worth, or vice versa. So, if we move forward to the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, that's going to take place here in the second house of earned income and self-worth. That's going to happen on March 3rd of 2026. So I always like to, if I'm looking at a new moon, I always like to look at the paired full moon. So new moon in Virgo, I'm looking at the next full moon in Virgo. What's going to culminate? What is coming to fruition? What is being illuminated? And what are the conditions of that can help put September with this new moon solar eclipse into perspective? So if we fast forward to March of 2026, let me get this just a little bit more exact if you're watching. Good enough. Okay. So whatever's going on in September of 2025 could really come to fruition, be illuminated, culminated, close out, etc., come roughly around March of 2026. Now, this full moon lunar eclipse is again tied to what is happening now in September, theoretically, culminating in the area of your earned income and your self-worth. But this time, with the conditions of what could be culminating that we're really getting going or planting the seeds or setting the intentions in September of 2025 is very different this time. So where the new moon here in September of 2025, the ruler Mercury was in this Libra third house, that's not the case with the full moon of when we're theoretically going to see what comes to fruition based off of what happens in September of 2025, because the ruler of this eclipse, just like the one this month in September, is Mercury. But during the full moon eclipse in that area, Mercury is going to be in Pisces, in detriment, retrograde. So by essential dignity, not a lot of strength here. However, sometimes what I've noticed with Mercury in Pisces is you can take on new perspectives, new angles that you normally wouldn't around transformational work or finances. So whatever is starting or you're working on in September of 2025 that could have strong financial themes or self-worth themes, that Saturn's helping you integrate long-term finances, long-term transformational work, personal, professional partnerships, your health and routines. Now, once it comes to fruition, this Mercury is retrograde. So you could get an additional opportunity to review, revise, and perfect, but it's in Pisces. So review, revise, and perfect in a really different way. And, be open to other possibilities, other avenues where things playing out leading up to March may seem one way, but then completely shift. So if you're journaling this, you're jotting this down, or you're just recalling it as you sort of, take stock of what's happening in September, so that when you get closer to March and you start seeing those themes really start to culminate, especially around transformational work or finances, this Mercury is going to give you the opportunity to review and revise in maybe peculiar ways, different perspectives, different angles that maybe you didn't see before, or it could really review and revise, finances, long-term goals, dreams, aspirations, social network as well could be integrated within this, that takes on a totally different reality or different perspective that you didn't see before. What I want to point out about this Mercury is that this Mercury is going to retrograde and station direct conjunct the North Node. That's really significant to me. So whatever is happening in September, initiating, planting the seeds around finances, self-worth, transformational work, finances, partnership, routines, that could really come to fruition as we get closer to March. We're not only going to get the opportunity to review and revise in maybe really interesting ways, but with Mercury stationing direct conjunct the North Node, it could really amplify those financial themes, but in a way where it could pull us to the direction we want to move towards, the direction we want to align ourselves to in 2026. And for you, Leo Rising, Mercury not only rules this second house of earned income, where this new moon eclipse is happening in September of 2025, but it also rules this Gemini 11th house of your social network and your long-term goals. So some of you might sort of go through an interesting journey as you get closer to March around finances, transformational work. But this could also play out in peculiar ways around friends, groups, communities, your social network. So some of you might be seeing sort of new perspectives or taking on new perspectives around your transformational work, your financial situation, through sort of shifting dynamics around your social network, whether it's personal or professional, as well as really trying to take on new perspectives or situations to align yourselves to your long-term goals, because Mercury does rule this 11th house of long-term goals. And with it being conjunct the North Node, it could be amplifying those themes. It could be really wanting to pull you towards the people you want to surround yourselves with, pulling you towards those long-term goals that could have strong resource themes, financial themes, transformational themes. So definitely, I think this new moon solar eclipse is really interesting in September, where we could potentially kind of stay open to all the possibilities that could play out. So with the conditions of the full moon, of how things are coming to fruition, with Mercury retrograde, Mercury in detriment, Mercury direct conjunct the North Node, I think in September, some of us might have a hard time seeing how things could actually manifest, how things could actually transpire. Where as we get closer to March, I think a lot of Leo risings could start to see some really interesting things happen with your social network, your long-term goals, your finances, partners' finances, transformational work, that somehow aligns you to the nodes in those financial houses, as well as transformational work and self-worth in really interesting ways as we get closer to March of 2026. Hello, Virgo Risings. So this new moon solar eclipse is actually happening in your Virgo first house of the self, the physical body, your identity, how you show up in the world, how other people view you. So generally speaking, this could be a really strong opportunity to set new intentions around what you want, who you want to be, how you want to take independent action, how you want to show up in the world. And this new moon solar eclipse is at the anaretic degree. So there could be a layer of urgency or intensity behind the desire to set new intentions around your physical body, your appearance, how you want to show up in the world, how you want to move through the world. Now, this new moon is, if you're watching, you'll see this new moon is opposite Saturn in your 7th house of partnership. So this could be personal or professional partnerships, including marriage. So for some of you, this could really have strong partnership themes of wanting to maybe set new intentions around what's really going to support you and your needs versus the needs of others. Saturn has been going through your 7th house for the past couple years. So some of you have had some stories and some journeys around commitment, longevity, tests, challenges, boundaries regarding partnership. Again, personal or professional. And for some of you, this new moon could also be a time to set new intentions around balancing your needs versus the needs of others, where this Saturn could be actually bringing up a deeper story because this Saturn is retrograding back over the territory that it originally went over roughly in May of 2025. So some of you might be able to think back to those deeper undercurrents or themes or situations that was playing out roughly around May of 2025. Where now you're gaining an entirely new reality, a new perspective around it that could be shifting your perspective around how you connect with others. It could be something that you're, changing your perspective, your boundaries, what you want to commit to or create longevity around within your long-term partnerships or the partnerships that are really going to be supporting you and your life and vice versa. So Saturn opposite this new moon could actually be bringing up, a lot of opportunities with the partnerships you truly want to commit to, create longevity around, or it could be things playing out within your long-term partnerships that you have been working on together for some time that you're maybe gaining a new perspective or, thinking about it in a different way where it's trying to sort of help you integrate that new perspective or, boundaries, responsibilities, commitments regarding what you're working on together and how you can balance that with making sure you can take care of yourself. You feel good. You have your needs met and you're moving through the world the way you want to move through and ultimately what you want to cultivate around what's really going to support you, how you want to show up in the world, how that impacts the foundation of your life, your career, what brings you fulfillment as well. So the ruler of this new moon is Mercury, and Mercury is in your Libra 2nd house of earned income and or self-worth. So if it is a partnership situation, or maybe some of you have been struggling in the partnership situation, I'm going to give different perspectives. So whether you're single or partnered up, I like to sort of provide perspectives for everyone. If there has been some tests and challenges and some situations playing out with partnership, this Mercury ruling this new moon, helping you set this new intention in this 2nd house of earned income and self-worth could have more to do about your self-worth. So some of you might be stepping into a new chapter around really valuing yourselves, your value, your self-worth, and how that can just be balanced within partnership and how sort of anchoring yourselves in your value and your self-worth can help sort of magnetize the situations you want in partnership or the connections you want. Now, if you're partnered up, if you're in a long-term partnership, this could have financial themes involved in whatever is being integrated or starting around this time. So some of you might be dealing with a long-term partnership, again, marriage, personal or professional long-term partnership, where you're setting a new chapter around your needs, yourself, but this could also have financial themes that you're sort of working on or integrating or balancing regarding this new chapter around you. I like to, especially with new moon eclipses, I like to look at the full moon eclipse. So the new moon happens in September. The full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo happens on March 3rd of 2026. And theoretically, that is what's going to culminate, bring to fruition, close out whatever really got initiated or worked out or sort of happened in September of 2025. So whatever's happening right now, it could theoretically be directly connected to the full moon that could amplify it, really bring it to fruition in March of 2026. So I like to skip ahead to that full moon lunar eclipse in that first house of the self, the physical body, to see the conditions of it. So it can sometimes help us put the new moon in September of this month into perspective. So let me get this a little bit more exact. If you're watching, I just like it to be a little bit closer. There we go. All right, good enough. So when we have the full moon on March 3rd in 2026, that's connected to what could be initiating the seeds being planted in September of 2025, so this month. This is a very different condition. So with the new moon eclipse happening here in September of 2025, the ruler, again, was in your second house of earned income or self-worth, potentially tying in themes of finances or self-worth to the partnerships you want to attract or things playing out within personal or professional partnerships. That same ruler, Mercury, is now in detriment or fall in your Pisces 7th house of partnership, and it's retrograde. So this could indicate that whatever's playing out in September, as it starts to culminate or really come to fruition or be illuminated as we get closer to March of 2026, you could have an additional opportunity to review and revise your needs versus the needs of others, the personal and professional partnerships you want to attract, or situations or things that you're working on within long-term partnerships. So you could have some time as it culminates to review and revise. But because Mercury's in Pisces, this could indicate that you're reviewing and revising it in ways that might feel unfamiliar, in ways where the perspective, the angle, or the reality might not be what you initially thought. So Mercury and Pisces can really take on sort of like a multitude of ways of sort of communicating or reviewing and revising that it normally wouldn't sometimes. And because this is happening in the area of your 7th house of partnership, this could really sort of impact or sort of shift perspectives or realities around something you're working on within a partnership or just partnership in general. What I want to point out with this Mercury is that if we move it a little bit along, it's eventually going to retrograde and station direct conjunct the North Node in your Pisces 7th house of partnership. This is really significant because Mercury is your ruling planet, but it also rules your 10th house of career and public recognition. So you could have been reviewing and revising sort of your needs, how you want to show up in the world, career, business, public recognition, what brings you fulfillment, and its impacts to how you connect with others personally or professionally, or its impacts to your current long-term partnerships in your lives. And when it stations direct, it will go conjunct the North Node. So it's really going to amplify the area of partnership. But because Mercury rules your 10th house of career and your first house of self, this could really be integrating and amplifying themes around your needs versus the needs of others, what feels fulfilling to you, maybe the direction or things amplifying in career, public recognition, and its impacts to personal and or professional partnerships in your lives. So it's not, it's not just a new moon happening in your Virgo first house in September this month in 2025, where a lot of you could definitely be planting seeds and setting a new intention around, your appearance, your physical body, how you want to show up in the world, how you want to take independent action, and maybe how that might be playing a part in what brings you fulfillment, or how you want to show up, how you want other people to view you with career, business, public recognition, what brings you fulfillment. But it's really, when you look at the full moon of what could really be culminating around what could really be initiating and unfolding in September for some of you in 2025, you could be, some of you could experience sort of a new possibilities, new perspectives, angles that you didn't consider before regarding your connections with others, things playing out within long-term partnerships or the partnerships that are sort of coming into your lives, especially in 2026. With this full moon lunar eclipse really putting a spotlight on you come March. So it's not just whatever you're starting in September of 2025, it could really amplify and sort of literally put a spotlight around your physical body, yourself. So some of you could quite literally find yourselves more in the spotlight, or it could definitely have something to do with career, business, public recognition, what brings you fulfillment, but how it's impacting your current long-term partnerships, the partnerships you want to magnetize into your lives, whether it's personal or professional, and how Mercury is doing some wonky business, throughout the leading up to March, but really throughout March, where maybe you're gaining new perspectives around the connections with others, personal or professional, and how those new connections or new perspectives happening or playing out within partnerships, or the partnerships that you're attracting around this time, could be mirroring back sort of what's playing out now in September, or mirroring back those intentions that you wanted to cultivate around how you want to show up, how you want to be supportive, how you can balance your needs versus the needs of others. And also for some of you, considering how career, business, public recognition could also be really amplified and impacting the area of personal or professional partnerships around this eclipse in March of 2026. Hello, Libra Risings. This new moon solar eclipse in Virgo at 29 degrees lands in your 12th house of the subconscious thought patterns, dreams, solitude, behind the scenes. So this could really be initiating a new chapter mentally, could be initiating a new chapter or new intentions sort of mentally or behind the scenes. So this could be something that's sort of happening behind closed doors, or that you're sort of processing mentally, or thinking about, or setting the intention or new chapter mentally or behind closed doors instead of sort of in this more public way. This new moon is at 29 degrees, so it's at the anaretic degree. So there could be a sense of urgency, or there could be some additional layers of potency behind sort of what's going on behind the scenes, or what's going on mentally, subconscious, behind closed doors or behind the scenes. If you're watching, you'll notice that this new moon is opposite Saturn in your 6th house of daily work and health routines. So this could be really integrating the mind body. This could be integrating your health, your work, your health and work routines. But there could be some additional layers here with this Saturn, because this Saturn is actually retrograding back over the territory it originally went over around May of 2025, roughly. So for some of you, it might, it might be playing into something a little bit before May or a little bit after May, but roughly May of 2025. What was going on? What were you doing? What were you planning? What was going on with your health or your work that you might be gaining a new perspective or a new understanding of around this time that is being weighed into a new chapter or new intentions that you're setting around your mental health, what's going on mentally, what's going on behind the scenes. So this is definitely highlighting the mind-body axis, even though this new moon eclipse is happening in more of an averse house, so a more hidden house, the house that we don't really publicly advertise to the world. So this new moon, the ruler of this new moon is Mercury, and Mercury is going to be in your first house of the physical body, the self, the identity, how you want to show up in the world. So there could be something going on again with Saturn revisiting something that happened or was playing out roughly around May of 2025, or could be playing out with health or work, that you're not only setting new intentions around maybe behind the scenes or maybe mentally, but the ruler of this new moon being in your first house tells me there's something going on with your physical body. There's something going on with how you want to show up in the world, how you want to move through the world, or whatever's happening around this time, its impacts to your physical body, how you feel, how you want to show up in the world. So some of you could really be looking at your routines, your work, a health situation, what's going on behind the scenes, its impacts to your mental health or how you want to maybe feel mentally. 12th house is also solitude and sleep. So some of you might be setting new intentions around just really needing more alone time, needing more rest, more sleep to sort of set this new intention or set this new chapter. So it could be as simple as that. But with the ruler of this eclipse being in the first house, that tells me that there could be definitely something going on with Saturn revisiting something that happened roughly around May of 2025. But Saturn could also be bringing up sort of the health or the work situation that's playing into this new chapter. But ultimately for you, how it's impacting your physical body, how it's impacting your ability to move through the world, how you want to show up in the world. So what I like to do, especially with eclipses, is with this new moon eclipse, whatever's happened in September, initiated, played out, it could really be, well, theoretically, it's connected to the full moon lunar eclipse that will happen here in this Virgo 12th house come March 3rd of 2026. So whatever's happening in September, you could really start to see it cultivate and unfold, but culminate and really come to fruition or be illuminated and maximized in roughly around March of 2026. So because this new moon is where we start, we create the intention, something happens, we're cultivating it, it's unfolding over the next 5 or 6 months. I like to look at the full moon that's connected to this new moon. This would be the one on March 3rd, 2026, because the conditions of that sometimes can put things into perspective now in September. So let's jump ahead to March 3rd of 2026. And let me get this aligned just a little bit more because I like it to be a little bit more exact. Okay, good enough. So March 3rd, 2026, full moon in that 12th house of behind the scenes, subconscious thought patterns, again, sleep, solitude. And with the new moon that happened here, or happening here in September of 2025, the ruler, Mercury, was in your first house of the physical body, the self. Now when it culminates, it comes to fruition, it illuminates. The ruler of this moon is Mercury again, but Mercury is now in your sixth house of health and or work routines. And it is in retrograde and it is in detriment. So this could indicate that whatever's happening in September, there could be a little bit of a unique journey with it. So whatever's happening with work and or health routines, for some of you Libra Risings, it could really amplify or come to fruition or culmination, yes, as we get closer to March of 2026. But this Mercury now in the sixth retrograde, you know, as we get to that culminating sort of coming to fruition moment, there could be a time where you do additional reviewing and revising around the health situation or the work situation or your routines that support the work or the health. That ultimately, that Mercury is eventually going to back up and it's going to station direct. It's going to go direct, conjunct the North Node in that sixth house of daily work and health routines. This is really significant to me because the nodes are sort of like the where we're coming from, where we're going. So whatever's happening in September definitely unfold over the coming months, but it could really get amplified, come to fruition, culminate as we get closer to March of 2026, where the ruler of the new moon eclipse in September and also the paired full moon eclipse in March is Mercury. And Mercury stationing direct conjunct the North Node in the sixth house after this period of reviewing and revising, you know, what's going on mentally, what's going on behind the scenes, as well as sort of the growth and potential opportunities, or what's the knowledge, what's the bigger picture that some of you might be seeking regarding work or health situation. That when Mercury stations direct conjunct the North Node, it could really amplify these themes. It could really be even sort of overworking and overexerting yourselves to align to health, to align to vitality, to align to the work and the routines, or the routines that set you up for success, that ultimately balance your mind and your body in 2026. Hello, Scorpio risings. So this new moon, solar eclipse in Virgo at 29 degrees. I'm actually gonna, if you're watching, I'm gonna just get this a little bit, just like it to be the same degree, sorry. So this new moon solar eclipse in Virgo is at 29 degrees. This is the anaretic degree, so there can definitely be an added layer of urgency or potency behind this new beginning, planting new seeds, new intentions, new chapters, new opportunities. And this is in your 11th house. So new beginnings, new opportunities are planting seeds around friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals. So some of you might really be setting new intentions around dreams, goals that you want to cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months. That some of you might be setting new intentions around who you want to surround yourselves with, new ways of relating to your social network. Again, your friends, your groups, your communities, maybe joining new groups, joining new communities. So this could be a really wonderful new opportunity to set new intentions or new beginnings around your social network and your long-term goals. Now, if you're watching, this new moon solar eclipse is opposite Saturn in this fifth house of joy. So the fifth house is, I mean, it's the place of joy, but this could be really anything that brings you joy. It could be creative projects, self-expression, romance, children, if that's applicable to you. So really consider those specific things in your life where you intimately like to experience joy. And Saturn is this is interesting because Saturn is retrograding back over the territory it originally went over roughly around May of 2025. So some of you might be able to think back. Maybe it could be, this is rough. So it could be a little bit before May, a little bit after May, but roughly around May of 2025. What was going on? What was happening? What was playing out? Even if it was minimal sort of undercurrent themes. Now for you, Scorpio risings, Saturn rules that fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate, as well as your third house of communication, exchanging information, siblings, extended family. So some of you might be going back over a situation that was playing out with siblings, extended family, property, real estate. For some of you, if you work in the communication fields, transportation, technology, could be personal or professional, that sort of might be coming, you might be reviewing and revising if it's a creative project. So any of those themes that you could be sort of gaining a new perspective or sort of reviewing and revising your boundaries, your commitments, your responsibilities to those things for some of you. Either way, this Saturn opposite this new moon is basically, to me, saying what's going on with home, family, property, real estate themes that could be playing a part with children themes that you need to integrate or balance with this new beginning around your long-term goals and your social network. For some of you, this could be sort of Saturn also saying, how do you want to communicate? How do you want to exchange information? How do you want to move through your immediate everyday environment with your self-expression or your creative projects? And how does that need to be integrated or balanced with this new beginning or new intentions around long-term goals, dreams, aspirations, social network? So for some of you, this could be maybe bringing something back or providing a new perspective around home, family, property, real estate themes that could involve siblings or extended family that need to be weighed into this new chapter, a new beginning around your goals or your social network. Or some of you, this could be more professional. This could be communication field, short distance travel, exchanging information, technology, transportation, that might be playing a part in or affecting joy, affecting creative projects, self-expression that need to be balanced or integrated within this new beginning or new chapter around your long-term goals or your social network. So Saturn is not just in the fifth house of joy, integrating potential themes regarding children, self-expression, romance, creative projects, etc. It's actually, I think, integrating or considering the fourth house of home, family, property, real estate. You know, what's the foundation that's fully going to support your joy? What's the foundation that's fully going to support children, if that's applicable to you? What is going on with siblings or extended family that needs to be integrated or balanced with your intentions, your goals, your dreams, your aspirations? And for some of you, this could really be more communication-based, technology, transportation, personal or professional, that might be impacting sort of the goals, the new intentions, or social network. The good news with this is that this opposition is actually happening in the 11th and the 5th. These are technically fun houses, generally speaking. And so this could be a really great time to consider sort of what's the foundation that's really going to support your joy, your creativity, you know, children, if that's applicable to you, that is also going to help you set this new chapter around the goals involving that or the people you want to surround yourselves with. So the ruler of this new moon is Mercury. And Mercury is going to be in your Libra 12th house of the subconscious, behind the scenes, subconscious thought patterns. So really sort of the area that we don't really publicly advertise to the world. And this tells me that for some Scorpio risings, you could really be contemplating a lot behind the scenes. You might be really thinking about something behind the scenes regarding setting this new chapter, setting this new goal. Now, Mercury does rule your 8th house. So some of you might be seeking transformational work to work through sort of what's going on mentally. But the 8th house is long-term finances. So investments, assets, debt, goals, a partner's resources as well. And the reason why I bring this up is because Mercury and Venus have swapped homes. They're in each other's homes and they're in mutual reception. Sort of, they're trying to help each other out. But Venus rules your 7th house of partnership, and Mercury rules this new moon solar eclipse. So some of you, I don't want to make this too complicated, but some of you might be looking at partners' resources, long-term finances, to sort of mentally work out something behind the scenes or behind closed doors to set this new chapter around long-term goals, social network, etc. Or again, Saturn is also saying, hey, don't forget about home, family, property, real estate themes. Don't forget about the foundation of your lives and the foundation that's fully going to support the finances, support the long-term goals, support the people you want to surround yourselves with. So when I'm looking at a new moon solar eclipse like this one, I really like to look at the full moon lunar eclipse that takes place. So we have the new moon, and the new moons are paired with the full moon that happens roughly about 5 or 6 months later. So new moon, new intentions, something happens, we plant new seeds. Full moon, it cultivates, it illuminates, it culminates, it comes to fruition, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to look at the full moon lunar eclipse that takes place here in your Virgo 11th house, because I want to see the conditions of that. That might help us put this new moon in September of 2025 into perspective. So if we fast forward to March 3rd, 2026, let me get this just a little bit more exact. So this full moon lunar eclipse is theoretically culminating, bringing to fruition, cultivating what got initiated, what happened in September of 2025. So again, the ruler of this full moon lunar eclipse, just like the new moon taking place in September of this month, is Mercury. And you'll notice Mercury is not in your 12th house anymore. Mercury is in your 5th house of joy, where Saturn was. It's technically in detriment, and it is also retrograde. So by essential dignity, not that strong. However, don't freak out. This Mercury retrograde in Pisces, I actually think, is not only an opportunity to review and revise those intentions or situations that you've been working on the past 5 or 6 months at this point, really starting in September this month. But with it being in Pisces, it could take on a different path, a different perspective. You might be looking at it from angles or perspectives that you never saw before. So this could really be, I think this is where the financial themes, the transformational work, the long-term goals, the social network could really be amplifying. But I think with Mercury being retrograde around that theoretical culmination point that a lot of us could be starting or playing something out in September of 2025, you are going to get an opportunity to not only review and revise the long-term goals, the financial situation, the transformational work, the social network, any of those themes, but that Mercury is going to retrograde around this time. It's going to retrograde back and station direct conjunct the North Node. So the deeper we get into March, this Mercury stationing direct conjunct the North Node, again, what we're hungry for, what we want to move towards, is really significant to me, because whatever you could be starting or really considering or planting seeds for in September of 2025 could not only really come to a head, come to fruition in March of 2026 or around March of 2026. There's an opportunity to perfect it, review it, and revise it in ways that might feel really unfamiliar, that might take on different perspectives or different angles maybe you didn't consider in the months leading up to this. But Mercury stationing direct conjunct the North Node is really an amplification around those Mercury-ruled areas of your chart. So Mercury could really be amplifying those 8th house themes, partners' resources, if applicable, investments, assets, debt, loans, transformational work, and its impacts to your joy. So some of you might really be looking at finances in peculiar ways, new realities, new perspectives. Again, Mercury and Pisces can really take on a really colorful array of communication and perspectives that could really be amplifying, again, those financial themes, partners' resources if applicable, transformational themes, and ultimately how that impacts your creative projects, children if applicable, romance, self-expression, really anything that you're trying to align yourselves to that feels more joyful for you. Mercury also ruling this opposite house where this new moon in September 2025 is taking place, and that full moon takes place March 3rd of 2026, is not only cultivating or culminating, but it's also potentially amplifying the groups, communities, and friendships that support your joy, that support the life that you want to live, that's more in alignment to joy. It could also be amplifying in really peculiar ways your long-term goals, your dreams and aspirations that maybe some of you want to align yourselves to because it brings you more joy. And you're considering sort of the financial themes or the transformational work that might help you get there or help sort of align yourselves to these 5th house themes of joy, creativity, self-expression, children, if applicable to you. So it's not just this new moon solar eclipse in Virgo happening in September. I think there is a much larger story playing out where I think we're going to have an opportunity to look at things in sort of these peculiar, interesting ways as we get closer to March of 2026. And hopefully when Mercury stations direct and aligns itself to this North Node, for you Scorpio risings, after many months at this point of considering sort of financial themes, transformational themes, long-term goals, dreams, aspirations, social network, how ultimately in some weird, peculiar journey with Mercury being in Pisces and retrograde, ultimately stationing direct with the North Node, can hopefully align you to more joy, creativity, and self-expression in 2026. Hello, Sagittarius risings. So this new moon solar eclipse at 29 degrees in your Virgo 10th house of career, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment is at the anaretic degree. It's at that last degree. So there could be a layer of urgency or potency to this new intention, new chapter, new opportunity, new beginning. That again is in the area of career, business, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment. So some of you could be really setting new intentions or planting new seeds that you really want to cultivate around your career, your business, your public recognition, and what brings you fulfillment. But I want to point out that this new moon solar eclipse here is opposite Saturn in your Pisces 4th house of home, family, property, and real estate. So this Saturn is retrograding back over the territory that it originally went over roughly around May of 2025. So think about what was sort of playing out around May of 2025. It might have been a little bit before May, a little bit after, depending on the orbs of these planets and your natal chart. But this Saturn could be shifting your perspective, or shifting some of you might be reviewing and revising your boundaries, your perspectives, your responsibilities, commitments regarding anything to do with home, family, property, real estate, people you live with, that is trying to balance or integrate this new beginning, new intention around career, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment. So you might be revisiting something, or you might be taking on a new boundary or perspective around home, family, property, real estate themes, or people you live with. And that now needs to be integrated or balanced regarding this new chapter or new something that you want to start regarding career, business, public recognition, and what brings you fulfillment. The ruler of this new moon is Mercury, and Mercury will be in your Libra 11th house of social networks, so friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals. So with what's playing out in September, a lot of Sagittarius risings could really be also considering the impacts to your social network, who you want to surround yourselves with. That might be playing into this new project, new venture, new goal regarding career, public recognition, and what brings you fulfillment. Some of you might be really considering long-term goals, dreams, ambitions. That's also heavily being considered or weighed into this new beginning, new chapter, or the thing that you want to cultivate around your career, business, public recognition. This Mercury is in Venus's home, and Venus is in Mercury's home here. So we have Mercury and Venus in mutual reception. They've sort of swapped homes, where Venus is in your 10th house of career, public recognition, and Mercury is in your 11th house of social network and long-term goals. So they're trying to help each other out. They're trying to, it's sort of like it's as if you swapped homes with someone else. You gain a new perspective. You have sort of, like a new reality takes form. So this new moon solar eclipse, especially for Sagittarius risings, I think is really interesting, because you could be sort of not only considering, but really gaining a new perspective around the direction you want to take your career, your business, your public recognition, or what's fulfilling to you. And also simultaneously gaining sort of a different perspective around your long-term goals, what you really want out of life, and who you want to really surround yourselves with. So this new moon solar eclipse is connected to the full moon lunar eclipse that takes place in the same house, Virgo, same sign, on March 3rd of 2026. So we have the new moon, and then it's followed by a full moon in the same sign. And that is theoretically the time of culmination, coming to fruition, illuminating what really got initiated or started with the new moon. And I like to look at especially with eclipses. So what's happening in September could really come to fruition or culminate around March of 2026, when we have the full moon that will be in your Virgo 10th house of career, public recognition, and what brings you fulfillment. Now, I like to look at the full moon moving ahead, because sometimes the conditions of this full moon can really give us perspective or give us clues as to putting the new moon this month in September of 2025 into perspective. So this full moon lunar eclipse takes place, culminating theoretically what we really initiated, what we're really dealing with in September of 2025. And you'll notice that the ruler of this full moon, just like the ruler of the new moon in September this month, is Mercury. And Mercury is not in your 11th house of your social network and your long-term goals anymore. Mercury is now in your 4th house of home, family, property, real estate. So it's in Pisces. It's now not only potentially culminating or bringing something to fruition that was playing out or happening in September 2025, but it's tying in strong home, family, property, real estate themes where this Mercury is technically in detriment and it is retrograde. So by essential dignity, it doesn't have a whole lot of strength. It really has to take different routes, different paths, different perspectives to sort of get to where it wants to go. So this Mercury is, I think, going to provide a lot of Sagittarius risings the opportunity to review and revise in peculiar ways, review and revise not only the foundation of your lives, but also partnership themes as well, because Mercury does rule your 7th house of personal and professional partnerships and its impact to home, family, property, real estate themes. But I think a lot of Sagittarius risings will get this illumination, fruition, coming to culmination, closing out of something that you started, you really wanted to cultivate starting in September, this month of 2025. But you're going to get an opportunity, I think, to review and revise it, where you're going to maybe gain new perspectives or new realities, or sort of look at things from a different angle that maybe you didn't consider before or you didn't see before. And this could also impact the area of personal and professional partnerships as well. But if we move this Mercury along, that Mercury is going to retrograde and station direct conjunct the North Node in your Pisces 4th house of home, family, property, and real estate. So I think this is the point where after maybe you've taken some new realities, new angles, new perspectives around reviewing and revising career, business, public recognition, as well as partnership themes, that you were really initiating or maybe planting the seed in September of 2025. Now that Mercury goes direct and conjunct the North Node. So this is really amplifying the career, the business, the public recognition, personal and professional partnership themes, and its impacts to the foundation you really desire, the foundation you really need, its impact to home, family, property, and real estate. So I think there is actually a lot of opportunity and potency behind this new moon solar eclipse in September this month, really helping us set these new intentions and new chapters or planting new seeds that we want to cultivate over the coming months, where I think for a lot of Sagittarius risings, you're considering sort of your long-term goals, who you really want to surround yourselves with, and also sort of maybe wanting to set new intentions, new projects, new ideas, things you want to cultivate regarding career, business, public recognition, or just those things that feel more fulfilling to you that come closer to March of 2026 could really come to fruition in the area of home, family, property, and real estate, that foundation of your lives. So it could really come to fruition regarding the foundation of your lives and how that is actually supporting the career, the business, the public recognition, or supporting what you really wanted to cultivate or initiate in September of 2025, where you're going to have some time to review and revise different perspectives, different angles, in maybe peculiar ways or unfamiliar ways. So there might be sort of a new way of existing within the home, or a new way of existing with relationships with family that could be playing out for some of you, that could also have new ways of relating to others, new ways of connecting with others, new connections to personal or professional partnerships, or new ways of existing regarding marriage, if that's applicable to you, and how that could really be amplifying in this Pisces fourth house, really pulling you towards this fourth house of home, family, property, real estate come March of 2026. Hello, Capricorn Risings. So this new moon solar eclipse in Virgo at 29 degrees. It's at the anaretic degree. So right off the bat, there could definitely be a layer of urgency or potency to this new moon, new beginning, new intentions. And now this is in your Virgo ninth house. So new intentions, new beginnings, new chapters around any growth and potential themes, which could include publishing, teaching, traveling, higher knowledge, spirituality, really any major growth and potential themes that are specific to you that could also have professional or career integrated within it. So some of you might really be setting new intentions and new chapters around any of those themes or any additional growth and potential themes that I didn't list, but feel like growth and potential to you that could definitely be career related. Why I say career related is because the ruler of this new moon is Mercury, and Mercury will be in your 10th house of career and public recognition. So there could definitely be strong career themes regarding this new intention or new chapter that you want to cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months. Now, if you're watching, you'll notice that this new moon is also opposite Saturn, your ruling planet, in your 3rd house of communication field. So it could be professional as well, or personal, technology, transportation, exchanging information, siblings, extended family. So it could be also a lot of Capricorn risings, you could be weighing or trying to integrate those people, places, and things within your everyday environment that could include communication, technology, or transportation, personal or professional, to start this new beginning or new chapter. But more specifically, this Saturn is actually retrograding back over the territory that it originally went over roughly around May of 2025. So depending on the orbs, it could be a little bit before May, a little bit after May. So roughly around May of 2025. So some of you might be able to think back to certain themes, certain situations that could have been sort of playing out. Even if it seems minimal, it could actually turn into something important around this time. So some of you might be sort of going back over or gaining a new perspective around the systems, the structures, the boundaries that could be playing into your communication fields, if it's professional, sort of siblings, extended family, again, those people, places, and things within your everyday environment that could be affecting or requiring you to balance or find a way to balance whatever situation is playing out there with wanting to set this new intention or new chapter around the growth and potential, the publishing, the teaching, the traveling, the spirituality. For some of you, could also have career themes integrated within that. So again, the ruler of this new moon is Mercury, and Mercury's in that 10th house of career and public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment, while Venus is in Mercury's home. So Venus and Mercury here have swapped homes. It's called mutual reception. And if you think about it from more of a psychological perspective, if you swapped homes with someone, if you had to live in someone else's home, it would give you a different perspective. You would go about your day differently. You would feel differently. And so regarding career or what brings you fulfillment, as well as growth and potential themes, you could be sort of not only starting a new chapter around those growth and potential themes that I mentioned, or again, growth and potential themes that I didn't list, but are very important or specific to you that could be career related. You could be really gaining a new perspective around those growth and potential themes regarding your career, your public recognition, or what feels more fulfilling to you. But again, Saturn is opposite this new moon here. So some of you might be sort of going back over something that you were considering or sort of playing out back roughly around May of 2025, or something that was playing out financially or affecting you physically regarding siblings, extended family, people, places, and things within your everyday immediate environment. So transportation, communication, technology, appointments, errands, mundane tasks that could have been playing into a financial situation or affecting you physically that need to, that Saturn's sort of saying, hey, we need to integrate this or balance this within this new intention or new chapter. This new moon solar eclipse is connected to the full moon lunar eclipse that takes place on March 3rd of 2026. So whatever's happening now in September could really start to come to fruition or culmination in some way, shape, or form come closer to March of 2026 when we have the full moon in this Virgo 9th house area of growth and potential. So I like to fast forward to that full moon, look at the conditions, just get a general feel for it, because sometimes it can really help us put September into perspective. So if I fast forward to March 3rd of 2026, let me get this just a little bit more exact. Okay. So fast forward to March 3rd. So as we get closer to March, we could really start to see things that maybe were playing out or happening in September of 2025 really start to culminate, shift, come to fruition, etc. So yes, this full moon is culminating, again, higher knowledge, continuing education, travel, spirituality, religion, belief, truth, publishing, teaching, really all those growth and potential themes. But you'll notice that this full moon lunar eclipse that's connected to this new moon solar eclipse in September, the ruler of it's Mercury, and Mercury is no longer in that 10th house of career and public recognition. Mercury is in the opposite house. Mercury is in your Pisces 3rd house of communication, exchanging information, siblings, extended family. So this Mercury is in detriment, and it is also retrograde. So by essential dignity, it is not it doesn't have the most strength, but before you freak out about that, it's not always a bad thing. It just means that, from all the people I've worked with, usually indicates that you can take on you're probably going to take different path, different perspective, different angles that you maybe feel unfamiliar, feel foreign to you. Maybe you're overexerting yourselves or you're overworking yourselves in order to bring this thing to fruition. Or this Mercury being in Pisces, you really could be sort of navigating, reviewing and revising it with it being retrograde. So reviewing and revising those growth and potential themes, as well as Mercury ruling your Gemini 6th house of daily work and health routine. So some of you might be reviewing and revising your health, your work, growth and potential themes that feel unfamiliar, that might feel new to you. You might be taking a new angle or a new perspective that feels a little different to you. But this Mercury is eventually going to back up and station direct conjunct the North Node. And I think this is really significant because whatever we are really initiating and unfolding around September of 2025, not only could it come to fruition or really be culminated in a strong way as we get closer to March, but when we get deeper into March, that Mercury, after having us maybe review and revise in peculiar ways regarding that growth and potential, that health situation or that work situation for you, Capricorn Rising, it will go conjunct the North Node, and it will likely really amplify the health, the work, the growth and potential in your everyday immediate environment. So it could really amplify communication fields if that's something that you work in or that's something that resonates with you professionally. Technology, transportation, short distance travel, exchanging information, siblings, extended family also could be really amplifying around this time and having you sort of really hungry and moving towards aligning your health, aligning your work, aligning the growth and potential, and the routines that are going to set those themes up for success in 2025. Hello, Aquarius Risings. So this new moon, solar eclipse in Virgo at 29 degrees. This is at the anaretic degree. So right off the bat, I'm thinking this, for a lot of us, this could have layers of urgency and potency behind this new intention, new beginning, or new chapter. And for you, this is in your Virgo 8th house of transformational work and sort of those long-term financial themes such as investments, assets, debt, loans, as well as a partner's resources, if that is applicable to you. So this could really be setting new intentions, new chapters, new beginnings, new opportunities with transformational work, transformational themes. Maybe setting an intention to cultivate making a big decision in the months to come. And some of you could be setting a new chapter financially, long-term financial management, as well as partners' resources, if applicable. Now, if you're watching, this new moon solar eclipse is opposite Saturn in this Pisces second house of earned income and self-worth. So this could be a new opportunity or a new intention around transformational work, transformational decisions, long-term financial themes that might need to be weighed or integrated with your earned income, your self-worth, your value. More specifically, though, for some of you, this Saturn might be bringing back more specific themes or story that's tied to around March of 2025. So this Saturn is retrograding back over the territory that Saturn originally went over roughly around March of 2025. So for some of you, this might be a little bit before, May of 2025. So sorry. This might be bringing you back or bringing similar themes or situations that Saturn originally brought up in May of 2025. That now, because Saturn's retrograde, it maybe has a new perspective, or maybe you're taking on a new perspective or boundaries or structures or systems regarding to your finances or your self-worth that might be playing into this new intention or new chapter around long-term finances and transformational work. So again, this Saturn is retrograding over the territory that it originally went over in May of 2025. Now, some people get really specific, but with orbs, for some of you, this might be a little bit before May or a little bit after May. So, and if it's nothing, if you can't recall anything, no big deal. If it resonates, great. If it doesn't, move on. So this is sort of Saturn's wrapping up the story here in your second house of earned income and self-worth. And I think this could be a really powerful opportunity for some Aquarius risings to set new intentions around self-worth, value, transformational work, and, how your relationship or psychology around finances or money or resources, if a partner's resources are sort of playing a part in what's transpiring around this time in September, if that's applicable to you, this could be playing into sort of what's your perspective on that? What's your relationship with that? So some of you might be sort of taking on new perspectives or new boundaries and systems to how you relate to currency, your relationship or psychology with money, the money you make versus the money you invest, etc. The ruler of this new moon is Mercury. And Mercury is in your Libra ninth house of growth and potential. So some of those themes that could come up regarding this new moon that could be playing into transformational work, self-worth, or those financial themes. You could be also taking on a new perspective or taking a look at travel, spirituality, publishing, teaching, higher knowledge, continuing education, really any of those growth and potential themes that could be having you look at finances, resources, transformational work, and its impacts to those growth and potential themes, or vice versa. But the ruler of the area that Mercury's in, this Libra area, is Venus, and Venus is in a Mercury ruled area. So Mercury and Venus here between your 8th and your 9th house have swapped homes. This is called mutual reception. So I'm not going to get too nitty gritty about the essential dignity just for time purposes, but essentially Mercury and Venus have swapped homes. So just to give you some perspective around what I mean, imagine if you swapped homes with someone, you're living in someone else's home. You're naturally going to gain a different perspective or a different understanding. Maybe you feel more grateful for things that you took for granted. Maybe you feel as if, I've been in other people's homes and I'm like, wow, this is an amazing idea. This is an incredible perspective. So maybe some of you are gaining a totally new perspective or really great ideas around financing, growth and potential, how your growth and potential can also provide you a lot of value, a lot of even financial support or windfall. So I think with these two swapped, I think with this new moon, this new opportunity or new intentions that you really want to cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months, probably around transformational work, making big transformational decisions, or long-term financial plans or a partner's resources, you could definitely be taking on really interesting perspectives or gaining sort of different angles or sort of seeing new ways of seeing things around that. But again, this new moon is technically opposite Saturn. So Saturn is potentially revisiting some things that you initiated or were thinking about back around May of 2025, where Saturn's there to say, hey, don't forget about what you bring to the table. Don't forget about your self-worth, your value. What is yours, your innate gifts, your talents that might be playing into this growth and potential and long-term financial plans or transformational work that you might be coming back around to and need to be integrated and balanced with this new beginning or new intention for some of you. Now, I like to, especially with eclipses, I like to look at the full moon lunar eclipse that will take place here in your Virgo 8th house on March 3rd, 2026. So theoretically, we have a new moon, and then the full moon that takes place in the same sign is what culminates. It's what brings it to fruition. So theoretically, the full moon lunar eclipse that takes place in the same sign of Virgo on March 3rd of 2026 would be around the time you could potentially see the culmination, the illumination, what is really coming to life around what maybe played out or got initiated or intention set in September of 2025. I also like to look at the full moon with new moons because I like to look at the conditions of the full moon, especially the eclipses, because sometimes the conditions of the full moon can give us perspective or understanding around the new moon that takes place this month in September of 2025. So let's have a look at this, and we'll notice that, yes, this full moon in your Virgo 8th house could really be culminating those financial themes, resources, transformational work, transformational decisions. But this time, the ruler of this eclipse is not in your 9th. It's in the opposite house. It's actually in your 2nd house of earned income and self-worth. And it's in detriment, and it is also retrograde. So before we freak out, I'm here to clarify that does not always mean a bad thing. Mercury in Pisces, there's millions, probably even billions of people that have Mercury in Pisces. And it just means that Mercury takes on a different flavor. It takes on a different perspective. It communicates, it operates in a different way. And so with Mercury retrograde, I think there's a layer of whatever we're initiating or thinking about or working on in September of 2025, it can not only come to fruition or culminate as we get closer to March of 2026, but this Mercury retrograde around that culmination time tells me that some of us will have the opportunity to really review and revise what is being culminated, what is really coming to life. And for you, it's probably regarding finances, financial plans, financial budgets, resources, transformational work, self-worth, where you'll be able to review and revise it. But because it's in Pisces, you could be reviewing it and revising it in really peculiar ways. You could be reviewing and revising it in ways that feel different or unfamiliar, or some of you might take some really interesting paths or decisions around reviewing and revising it. Mercury does rule your Gemini 5th house of joy. So this tells me that some Aquarius risings, as this is culminating, whatever you're working on, whatever you're dealing with in September, really, really consider it, really sort of write it down, make sure you remember it, because when it culminates with this full moon eclipse in this 8th house, it could also have undercurrents or additional themes of really reviewing and revising it where it's in alignment to your joy and your heart's desire. So some of you might really be taking different ways or different avenues, different perspectives, different angles to reviewing and revising transformational work, financial themes, and how it's really aligning to your heart's desire, what brings you joy, how it can sort of balance all of that out. Now, if you continue with this Mercury, there's one last thing I want to point out. After this revisionary period, that Mercury stations direct, conjunct the North Node in the 2nd house of earned income and self-worth. So this is very important for me because I think that after this really interesting revisionary period that might feel unfamiliar to regarding, finances, resources, transformational work, to align yourselves financially, but also through value and self-worth to what brings you joy, what is your heart's desire. Mercury stationing direct conjunct the North Node is really, in my opinion, going to amplify this. The North Node is what we're hungry for. It's what we want to move towards. And so I think this could really bring in strong financial themes, especially if you're partnered up. So considering sort of like what I'm doing, what's my value versus other person's value, how we balance these finances versus these finances, investments, assets, resources, and sort of really amplifying, mutual empowerment, I think is a big thing here, because I think after this revisionary period, that could incorporate joy, or if some of you have children, this could have strong children themes or family planning themes that could play into financial planning for family planning. If that's applicable to you, this could really take on a really interesting journey around this time. Again, if it's applicable to you, don't freak out. I'm not telling you you're going to get pregnant. A lot of times when people listen to this, they contact me and they think they're going to get pregnant. Take what resonates and leave the rest. But I think that Mercury, again, rules this 8th house of transformational work and those long-term financial themes. But the 8th house is where we merge, right? It comes after the 7th house of partnership. So I think this could be a really interesting journey around how you connect with others, how you can create mutual empowerment professionally and personally. That maybe, again, it's in Pisces, so maybe it takes on sort of like a different feel or an unfamiliar feel for some of you, but ultimately it can really increase resources, finances, transformational work, and in a way where it's integrating also this fifth house of joy and creativity and self-expression. Again, that might feel a little different, a little unfamiliar for some of you who are unfamiliar with Pisces energy. But I think ultimately Mercury stationing direct conjunct the North Node could be a really interesting time or peculiar time around not only increasing those financial themes and self-worth, joy, creativity, self-expression, but ultimately how you can create mutual empowerment professionally and or personally in your everyday lives in 2026. Hello, Pisces risings. So this new moon solar eclipse is at 29 degrees of Virgo, and this is the anaretic degree. So there could be a layer of urgency or potency to this new beginning or new intentions, new opportunity, etc. And this is really happening in your seventh house of personal and or professional partnerships, including marriage. So this could really be a new opportunity to set a new chapter or new intentions within your current long-term partnership or partnerships. Or this could also, for some Pisces risings, be a time where you're setting new intentions around the partnerships that really serve you at this point in your lives, especially with Saturn wrapping up its journey in Pisces here, which I'll get to in a moment. But the seventh house I also consider the seventh house for court cases. So if you are dealing with anything regarding or playing out in court, this new moon solar eclipse could be a really powerful new beginning around that. So definitely, if that's something that resonates, if that's something that really starts to play out, especially in September 2025, definitely want to sort of jot that down, consider that, because this could be really playing into something that actually cultivates over the coming months through about March of 2026, which I will also get to. But this new moon, regardless, generally speaking, is a new opportunity for how you connect with others, anything playing out with personal or professional partnerships that is opposite Saturn in your first house of the self, the physical body, how you want to show up in the world. And so this Saturn here is actually retrograding back over the territory that it originally went over roughly around May of 2025. Now, with orbs and your own natal chart, this might be a little bit before May or a little bit after May. So roughly, generally speaking. Some of you might be able to think back to roughly around that May 2025 period. What was really being amplified, what was really playing out, what was happening that now you might be sort of coming back to, but sort of reviewing it and revising it with new boundaries, new perspectives, particularly around your long-term goals, who you want to surround yourselves with, and anything that's been going on behind the scenes or mentally. So some of you might be sort of coming back around to those situations. Again, if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, leave it. But Saturn could be bringing you back around to sort of taking on new boundaries, new systems, new structures to how you relate to your social network. Again, friends, groups, communities, your long-term goals, what really supports your physical body, how you want to show up in the world, and how that can be integrated and balanced with this new chapter or new beginning that could be playing out with marriage, long-term partnerships, professional partnerships, or the partnerships you want to attract. Now, the ruler of this new moon solar eclipse is Mercury. And Mercury will be in your Libra 8th house of transformational work, long-term financial themes, so investments, assets, debt, loans, as well as partners' resources, if applicable. So if you're partnered up or you're dealing with something regarding a partner or even a professional partnership, this could have strong financial resource themes playing into this new chapter or new beginning playing out within that personal or professional partnership. Or if you're in a court case, like a divorce or anything like that, this could definitely be sort of setting the stage for something playing out with that court case and sort of what's going on with assets, investments, debt, loans, partners' resources, etc. So again, take what resonates, leave the rest. But this Mercury is in Venus's home. and Venus is in Mercury's home. So this is called mutual reception. They've swapped homes. I don't want to get too much into the nitty-gritty bits about essential dignity and sort of what that means, but for time purposes, if you think about it, this new moon could be a new chapter, a new intention, or the start of something that could play out over the next 5 or 6 months regarding personal and professional partnerships or the partnerships you want to attract, while you're simultaneously gaining a different perspective around how you connect with others, or gaining a different perspective around partnership, finances, transformational work. That could be really interesting or playing a part into why you're setting this new intention or setting a new chapter. This new moon, solar eclipse, is connected to the full moon lunar eclipse that will take place here in Virgo on March 3rd, 2026. So we always have a new moon, and then the full moon about 5-6 months later is what cultivates, culminates, closes out, illuminates what we set intentions on, what we started, what we wanted to come to fruition, etc. So this new moon being connected to that full moon lunar eclipse, again in Virgo, that's going to happen on March 3rd, 2026, could really not only cultivate or culminate whatever's playing out in September, which is why I think it's important to mention what's playing out in September, even if it's behind the scenes, even if it's just something you're thinking about, it could really come back around or be illuminated in some way as we get closer to March of 2026. Now, I want to fast forward to that full moon lunar eclipse that's going to take place in this Virgo 7th house of personal and professional partnerships, because I think the conditions of that, what's going on with that situation, can really help put September, this month, into perspective. And if we move forward to March 3rd, let me just get this lined up here. Just want it a little bit. Let's back up. Okay. All right, close enough. So we have this full moon, sun and moon in opposition here, along your 1st and your 7th house axis. So your needs versus the needs of others, where this full moon could really be culminating what really started to take place, what really started to unfold. Again, even if you think it's minimal, it's behind the scenes, it's not a big deal, this could really be giving you juicy clues or situations that could really culminate between you versus your connections with others, marriage, personal, professional partnerships, where this time the ruler of this full moon, just like the ruler of the new moon here in September of 2025, is Mercury. And you'll notice that Mercury, if you're watching, Mercury's not in your 8th house anymore. Mercury's actually in your 1st house of the self, the physical body, how you want to show up in the world. It's in detriment and it is retrograde. Now, don't freak out. I've worked with tons of people who have Mercury retrograde in Pisces, and it doesn't always mean a bad thing. It just means that I think with whatever we're working on or what's happening in September, how it culminates and how it cultivates or gets illuminated might be in an interesting way. And I think with Mercury retrograde, some of us will be open to reviewing and revising what is cultivated, illuminated, coming to fruition around partnership themes or things playing out within long-term partnerships, again, personal or professional, where we get this opportunity to review and revise, for you Pisces risings, review and revise sort of maybe your needs, what you really want, what you really desire. But because it's in Pisces, this Mercury, maybe some of you are doing this reviewing and revising in a way that feels unfamiliar. Maybe you're going through this journey, or you're taking paths that you never took before, Mercury also rules your fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate. So some of you might be taking on new perspectives around your living situation, the foundation of your lives. Maybe some of you are revisiting your ancestry, where you come from. Some of you might be sort of taking different routes on reviewing and revising your childhood and how it's impacted you, how it's impacted how you connect with others. There's so many possibilities with this. But whatever is sort of starting to happen in September, it could come full circle as we get closer to March, where it could really cultivate or come to fruition or really illuminate the area of partnership or how you connect with others personally or professionally, and how that's being mirrored back to you in a way where you're reviewing and revising what you really need physically, how you want to feel, how you want to move through the world. And maybe how your living situation, things playing out with home, family, property, real estate could be impacting that for some of you. Maybe some of you are really looking at a relocation or sort of a living situation that's fully going to support your physical body, how you want to show up in the world, and also support how you want to connect with other people. Now, this Mercury is going to continue moving on. I think this is really important to show that Mercury is going to continue retrograding, and it's going to station direct conjunct the North Node in your first house of the self, the physical body, how you want to show up in the world. Now, again, Mercury ruling your fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate, as well as your seventh house of personal and professional partnerships. This is really amplifying because we're talking about the North Node. So it's amplifying you, your needs, while also the South Node in that seventh house of the personal professional partnership. So balancing your needs with the needs of others, but in a way where you might be really amplifying, or those home, family, property, real estate themes, as well as partnership themes, might really be amplifying in this first house of self. How does it affect you? How do you want to feel? What is the foundation that's fully going to support you? What are those personal and professional partnerships that are going to support you? If you're in a long-term partnership, if you're happily married, what could be amplifying within that to create a win-win situation? How can you improve the situation or amplify the situation in a way that, again, it's in Mercury's in Pisces. Maybe it feels a little different. Maybe it's a different alternative route that you're not used to. It feels a little wobbly, but this Mercury stationing direct conjunct the North Node, I think, is really, in an interesting way, somehow pulling you Pisces risings to focus on yourselves and how that can serve the relationship. That, we can focus on ourselves and we can support the relationship. We can focus on ourselves and create the change we need to home, family, property, real estate themes, or create the change we need to the foundation of our lives that's going to support you, but also support the connections you want to make or the connections that you have.